I'm Margot Adams Larson, Inspiration Entrepreneur. Welcome to the Inspired Hive Podcast, where we're creating a community of business and leadership professionals through meaningful conversations designed to inspire one another. Let's see what's in store. Dr. Caitlin Dzikon is a professor of health psychology at Bastyr University and the CEO of Rising Spiral Wellness, where she focuses on supporting therapists in bolstering their resiliency and fostering joy in their lives. She is passionate about the mind-body connection and the power of exercise to support our wellness. She's also creating resiliency boot camps for therapists to use movement as a component of building their resiliency. Caitlin, welcome to the Inspired Hive Podcast. I am so excited to chat with you today.
Thanks. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, we go way back to when I was working at UND and you came into the department as a grad student, and it always inspired me the energy that you brought with you into the department, and especially the energy you had focused around wellness. You got people involved in community activities. I remember doing a fun run. I saw that in your clinical work. I saw that in your research, and it just is so incredible to see how you've gone on in your career to really exemplify all of your focus in wellness throughout it. So I'd love to hear from you where things began and where your story begins.
Yeah, that's such an interesting question because, for me, there's a lot of little things that have sparked and shaped the work that I'm doing now. And so, it's less about where the story begins and more about like what page am I on right now? And kind of trying to lean into that and not get to the end or, have a specific spot to be in. It's really nice hearing your intro and that memory of when we first got to know each other because I think that really highlights, how I have often lived my life. Exercise and wellness has long been very much integrated into my life. I went to college on an athletic scholarship. And then when I was in graduate school, I was doing those fun runs. I did a couple of triathlons. I played volleyball every Wednesday night at a
I
bar near
love it.
UNC, like bar volleyball. But for me, exercise was always a way that just kind of sparked joy for me and gave me social connection and stress relief and things to do outside of all the other work that I was doing. It was interesting because when I got to grad school to study psychology, there were people who thought I was going to study exercise psychology, and I kind of shied away from that. I wanted to kind of step out of what I knew and learn something different. And so I went more the path of studying neuropsychology and working with people with brain injuries, with MS, with other conditions that affect their brains. And I saw that exercise and wellness was really important for helping them live with these very difficult conditions. I think at the time I didn't realize just how naturally integrated exercise was for me. And I think when I started to realize that was when I took that next step after grad school into internship, into full-time clinical work. And that's where it was a really big struggle for me. When you're doing therapy, you're present with your clients all day. Like it's not like other jobs where you can let your mind wander, right? You're there, you're holding space for a lot of emotion. Um, and I really struggled to do that all day and then keep up with exercise and wellness and things that normally had sparked joy for me. And so I struggled a lot. And at the time, I didn't get a lot of support from like supervisors and colleagues. And I think I, at some level, didn't even think I could ask for support or didn't know what to ask. Over time, I sort of figured it out. And as I've gone through years since then, a lot of life has happened. And so I've kind of realized the importance of also like reshaping and reflecting and sort of changing how you approach wellness based on the stage of life you're in and the things you're going through.
That's such a powerful, I think, observation of even your own journey of realizing that oftentimes wellness is the core and we don't notice how much we need it until it's not there.
Yeah.
Right? That it's
Yeah.
like missing, like we don't notice that it's gone, but once we start to kind of figure out a little bit or explore why are things a bit more stressful or more challenging, even though life throws lots of life at us, it can sometimes be because some of those core wellness activities just have gone by the wayside. And
Yeah.
it's because we got busy or something else filled in or we couldn't find a group to be
Right.
a part of. And so it's interesting to me how you have noticed that through your own journey, but now how that is something that continues to inform the work that you're doing throughout all the different aspects of things you do. So,
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned when wellness is not there is when you realize it the most. Because I think, in 2019, I had a really bad back injury and I couldn't run, I couldn't lift, and I couldn't do all the things I liked to do. Um, but walking was recommended and was helpful as part of my recovery. And it felt so boring. At the time, I wasn't someone who enjoyed walking, and so I needed a challenge. So I said, I'm going to challenge myself to do 30 minutes of any exercise every single day for an entire year. And I needed like a big goal like that just to kind of keep my motivation. And when I was recovering from that back injury, sometimes it was 3 10-minute walks, or it was 15-minute walk and 15 minutes of yoga. But, whatever I could do to keep that really helped. And it started to give me a better appreciation for intuitive exercise and really learning to like listen to my body and my mind as far as how did I need to move. And coming from an athletic background, the mindset was always go hard or go home. And through this challenge, I learned like, no, you don't need to go hard. You just need to go. And that maybe shouldn't be so insightful to me, but it really was that, for the mental health benefits of exercise and other wellness activities, you just need to do them, not do them perfectly or at any sort of intense level.
an empowering perspective as well, because oftentimes we have training plans for half marathon or whatever it is, and we miss a workout and then we're like, oh, we either have to catch it up or now we're doomed. And it really is about being in motion and using that plan as a guide, but not necessarily having to follow to a T. I love how your journey actually helped you to maybe be more internally perceptive of where your body was, what your body needed, and to relax that mindset around, well, it could be a walk, it could be a bike
Yeah.
ride, it could be, you know,
Yeah.
this or that. It doesn't have to only be this one thing that we somehow get into the habit of thinking it has to be just that.
Yeah, and everyone's busy, everyone's got a lot going on, and there's things that come up. So I think we have a tendency to fall into a mindset of like, well, I don't have 30 minutes. And that's okay. If you have 10, do 10. If you have five, do five. It can still be so beneficial. Shortly after I completed that challenge, I had the opportunity to teach the psychology of exercise that I had long avoided in grad school. um, but it kind of inspired me to look at the research on developing that intuition around movement, developing that flexibility to just do what you need, and really, looking at some of the the things that were helpful in that regard. And it kind of sparked this idea of this is what therapists need. This is a tool that they can use to really understand their resilience, understand what they need, and sort of create ways to like spark joy outside of their very tough work lives.
And I love what you said too, that it could just be 5 minutes, or it could be, 1 minute, get out the door. And then, likely you're involved in that activity and will stay with it and have that resilience a little longer. And
And I think this is an experience a lot of therapists have is go home at the end of the day and you're worn out from that emotional listening and stuff. And so it's easy to just kind of numb out or,
turn the
just do
Netflix on.
stuff that doesn't, yeah, Netflix and chill. But which is fine. Sometimes that's what you need. But if you're like sort of doing those things without intentionally thinking about what you need, that's where people I think start to burn out or just not recognize how to have joy outside of the workplace. And it occurred to me at some point that, it's possible that's why I didn't have the support back then is maybe, the people I was working with were also struggling and not finding those ways. So it's really exciting to like be the one who maybe can spark that or help spark that for other therapists.
What inspires you?
Huh. I think I'm really inspired by just the idea that we can grow and change and evolve over time and that opportunity is always there. Sometimes it's elusive in a way that, it's like we feel like we just want to be at a place, but kind of we actually can feel more alive if we continue to look for ways and seek out ways to pursue new areas or new aspects to ourselves. I think that is really exciting and inspires me. And I think just I'm very inspired by people who just continue to try to be active, who have that like zest for life and just keep doing activities.
It's so refreshing to see when people try new things and explore that and just they get excited about, whatever that new kind of information is, or it kind of adds color to the journey. And really, I've seen so many folks find different paths, even in terms of the hobbies they are finding joy in, or the things that they're liking to do because they went out and just tried something new.
Yeah, and just the ways you can connect with new people through those activities. Just have something different that you've never experienced before is great for your brain and your stress relief. And it's just such a neat thing to be able to do that. So I'm very inspired by people who can do that. It's not easy all the time to keep up with that. It takes a lot
For
of
sure does.
energy, a lot of
Yeah.
resilience. So.
Yeah. Who do you follow for inspiration?
A lot of people. I follow you. I follow a personal trainer named Sean T. He talks a lot about like mental health and
Mhm.
things. He actually has these shirts that say like "Eat a donut, go to therapy." But he does a lot of great integration with fitness and mental health that I really like. And there's a lot of other people I follow too: Simon Sinek, Mel Robbins, Brene Brown. But I always try to keep in the back of my mind, like, there are tons of smart people out there giving good advice, and it's not
Mhm.
all meant for me.
Mm,
And so sometimes I try to take time to not be following and just be
right.
listening to myself.
Yeah. Let that growth
Yeah,
percolate and happen.
exactly, exactly.
That kind of segues to something I wanted to ask about, and that was maybe a, a big lesson or something that you've been blessed to learn about through your journey, and maybe something you would share with folks listening.
The biggest lesson for me, aside from just being able to develop intuition around how I move my body, I think the biggest lesson for me is that you can evolve your career, that's like a normal and healthy thing to do. I think it's easy to feel like, well, I went to grad school, I went to all these years of school to be this, but not realizing that that could take a different shape over time. And once I kind of accepted that, it really helped motivate me to get the ball rolling with Rising Spiral. So
I love that, especially thinking about not having to feel stuck, that there's different ways you can share your gifts and use your gifts and apply them.
right. I had a lot of doubt, like, "Oh, wait, can I do this?" And, it's like, "Well, of course I can." And that's, one of the reasons I've loved reconnecting with you, because you've also pivoted your career and using your skills in a different way. So that's really helpful to see. But
Well, tell us a little bit about what you've got going on, what you're looking forward to. Brag on yourself for a little bit here.
I don't know if it's a huge brag, but since I really emphasize like having things to do outside of work, I will share that my daughter has learned to longboard. And so I promised that I would also learn so we can longboard together. And so I'm learning very slowly to try to get my balance and longboard. And then in terms of like professional stuff, I'm very much working on ways that I can bring this idea of wellness and resilience to more therapists. And just today actually was in a meeting about website resources and how could I create a place where people can share what's been helpful for them. Back when I was in transitioning out of grad school that I could have used to figure out those things. So,
I love that. So, creating the resources in addition to creating and bringing to life Rising Spiral. That's so cool. I love the name. And
success and wellness is never a straight line. And so that's why I named it. It's a rising spiral. So
I love that. It's so important to realize what you've shared earlier in the work that therapists do of holding space for folks with deep emotional things, with a lot in life happening, and that takes a special presence and a special approach for those therapists, and to have a place to be able to allow that to shift and flow and let it go, perhaps, or to rise above that, I think is such a great analogy. But I know you're including exercise and components of movement in that. And I think that's so powerful.
yeah, I'm so excited and I'm really working hard to make it playful types of
Mm.
exercise, like
Longboarding.
maybe. But I think, if you haven't been an exerciser throughout your life, it can be intimidating to hear that, but really it's just like you're gonna move in fun ways and you're gonna think about and reflect on how it affects your mind and your energy and things like that. So you can develop that intuition.
I love that, and I can't help but think the ripple effect will flow back to the folks that those therapists are working with,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
power that that has too.
That almost gives me goosebumps because I really hope it does have that ripple effect.
Awesome. So, what is maybe one piece of advice that you would give to the listeners? Maybe something someone shared with you or something you learned along the way?
I think the piece of advice I would say is to let things percolate. I've had the idea sort of for Rising Spiral for a while, but it had to like simmer and get some other ingredients added before it took the shape I wanted. And so I think being open to letting things sit there for a bit until they have the shape that you want or that you fulfills you, I think is really valuable. And don't let them simmer forever though.
Yeah. I love it though, because it's this idea of it's there, you're holding it, you're thinking about it, you're not just kind of putting it back into a space and stuffing it somewhere, but you're letting it percolate and simmer. I love that analogy.
Yeah, I think that's been very valuable for me and my business. So.
Oh, well, Caitlin, it is such a thrill to chat with you. And there's so much more we could chat about, but we're keeping these to a little bit of a shorter timeline so it's easy to listen while you're on a quick jog or,
Yeah.
cleaning the house, whatever.
Yeah.
But I am really grateful to be back connected with you. I love watching your journey, and I thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been so fun to be here.
Absolutely. I'm going to sign off today with a quote from Theodore Roosevelt, and it is, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Inspired Hive Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Inspired Hive Podcast and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. I'm looking forward to connecting with you again. And as always, remember, live inspired.